We are eating in medieval England. The date is March 21st, 1401 AD. You are on your large country estate, located only a short carriage ride outside of London. In a few days, guests will be arriving from a manor home near Oxfordshire for a special occasion dinner. They are not expecting a lavish affair after their 2-day journey, though you know that as a good host they should be served excellent food to match their rank in upper nobility. This dinner will be served to guests in your home's great hall, which has an impressive high dark brown timber framed ceiling and stone walls adorned by rich tapestries depicting themes of harvest and bounty. Servants know the massive stone fireplace must be maintained constantly to generate necessary warmth for this vast room. Of course, everyone in attendance will dine at solid carved long wooden tables furnished with fancy tablecloths underneath coverings which protect these fine fabrics. While anticipating your guests with heavy anticipation, you know that one has to be careful what was spoken. With the Suppression of Heresy Act of 1400 AD, a Roman Catholic priest and follower of the Lollard faith was burned at the stake this very month. These were careful times indeed to be speaking too freely on one's convictions. We are eating Cormarye. Workers on the grounds of your estate have been complaining about pigs, both wild and domesticated, running rampant on certain wooded areas of the grounds. Suddenly, you have a brilliant idea. You summon the master cook from the kitchen to see if there was a recipe using pigs in a dish worthy of serving noble guests. Your cook responds immediately with a confident smile. He read about a certain recipe in the form of curry, that book compiled by the master cooks of King Richard II in 1390, which used pigs in a noble, succulent recipe. Served at royal feasts, banquets, and special dinners, it would be ideal for this occasion. It was called Cormarye. Cormarye was an English roasted pork loin which used ingredients like expensive imported spices that only noble and wealthy families could afford to make this tasty dish. Even though it was the meat of pigs, this dish was worthy enough to be served to kings, as shown by its inclusion as the 53rd recipe in the form of curry cookbook. Therefore, even though pigs were a common meat, the ingredients and preparation methods made Cormarye a delicious meat for noble guests. You return a pleased smile to your master cook and give approval for Cormarye to be served at this special dinner. In preparation for making Cormarye, the master cook had to ensure that all the necessary ingredients were at hand. The main ingredient, pigs, would not be an issue. However, the most expensive and crucial ingredients for Cormarye were the spices. At any fine manor house in England at the time, spices were kept in a special area devoted exclusively for their storage called a spicery. It was located in the kitchen. The master cook went to the office of the spicer to see if the following ingredients were available in the quantity required. First, he inquired about coriander. It was imported from the Mediterranean basin region, with coriander seeds being a highly desired spice in medieval Europe. During ancient times, coriander was used for medicinal and possibly ritual purposes, though the cook required this spice for culinary purposes only. Fortunately, the spicery contained a good amount of coriander. Next, the cook inquired about caraway, another important spice used in this recipe. Fortunately, caraway was not an expensive imported spice. It was grown in Europe and was often used as a seasoning in various meals. Therefore, caraway was available in the spicery. The third important spice required was black pepper. This was a costly ingredient that was highly valued and used as payment for rent and other goods, for food, and even medicinal purposes. The high status of having black pepper, also known as black gold, would convey status to your noble guests. Originating in Southeast or South Asia, at this time it was an expensive import from the Malabar coast of India. The spicer confirmed they had purchased black pepper just a few days ago for the spicery. The master cook was pleased to hear this news. Salt was also required for making Cormarye. It was an expensive and valued commodity used regularly in the kitchen and always available at the estate, stored in the spicery. Garlic was grown on a small plot in the estate gardens and would be required for this recipe. Now the master cook instructed 2 servants to bring a cask of red wine to the kitchen from the main cellar. This quality red wine was recently imported from the Bordeaux region. Meal preparations began at dawn on the day these noble guests were arriving. Your master cook made sure to do the cormarye much later in the day, so it could be served fresh at the appointed dinner time. Today, the master cook would prepare this dish personally. First, caraway was ground with mortar and pestle. The black peppercorns were ground into powder the same way. Then he ground some garlic. These spices were mixed into a portion of Bordeaux red wine for a marinade, with salt added for additional flavoring. Loins of pork were then removed of all skin, and the meat was softened with knife holes for texturing before being placed in the marinade. Now the master cook roasted the marinated pork loins to his satisfaction, catching the drippings from this roasting meat in a large pan. These drippings were poured into a pot along with a rich broth and simmered together as a sauce. When this recipe was finished, servants delivered the fresh cormarye and sauce to the waiting guests at this special manor dinner. Interesting facts about an ingredient. Pigs played an important role as food in everyday medieval life. They were semi-domesticated and could often be found running wild, feeding on acorns and whatever else was available. Pigs were relatively inexpensive to maintain because their appetites were not choosy. Pigs were one of the few animals widely available for nourishment for both the upper and lower classes. During the Middle Ages, pigs, even domesticated ones, closely resembled those found in the wild. They featured longer snouts, bristly fur hair, and were much leaner in appearance than the modern variety of domesticated pigs. This episode's medieval food guide, Digestible Wisdom. Taste the delicious satisfaction that comes from turning a problem into a solution which nourishes both your body and home. Thank you for supporting us at Medieval to Modern. Be sure to watch our next episode or any other fascinating video or playlist from our Medieval to Modern channel. Also, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, click the notification bell, and share this channel so we can create more exciting content. I wish you good tidings as we remember that sharing knowledge has been a noble deed throughout the ages.